Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. It's been a minute, I know. I had a few weeks there, I guess it's been probably about 6, that were just so busy. My workload was really intense. We were visiting some friends, and honestly, I was just feeling so burnt out that anytime I thought about doing the podcast or anything creative, I just couldn't really find the space to do it. But summer is here, and that always means a little bit more space in my day, in my brain mostly. It's not even about like physical time that I have. It's like about the capacity to be able to do anything beyond my day job and life and giving to all of the people, places, and things that are priorities for me. So maybe it's time to reassess priorities, which maybe that's like the perfect part of this podcast. As you can see in the title, I recently celebrated my 38th birthday. And I think that birthdays are just such a great time to reflect. They're like your own personal new year, right? You get to say, how did I feel this past year of life? Did I accomplish the things that I wanted to accomplish? Did I stay true to the intentions that I set forth for myself? Am I feeling good with where I'm at in my relationships? And how do I want to feel moving forward? And what are some of the systems that I can put in place to make sure that happens? I feel really lucky because my birthday is on June 23rd. And so it falls right around halfway through the year. So it's a perfect time to check in on any intentions that I set for the new year. And I'm going to kind of do that today, but my New Year's resolutions and intentions were pretty specific. So I'm not going to dive into those. Maybe we'll recap those another time. But I really wanted to think about the past year of life and what I experienced and have a moment to be really grateful for all of those things. And also take a minute to reflect on the things that maybe I didn't do so well. Maybe I want to improve and change in my 38th year of life. And I'm not sure, is that technically the 38th year of life, or is it my 39th year of life because year zero doesn't work or it doesn't count? It worked, but it doesn't count. I'm not sure. So, anyways, we're just going to call it my 38th year of life since that's the number that I'm on. And that feels really surreal to say. Wait, this is so crazy. Am I 38 or 30? I'm 38. Okay. I was looking at my note and I'm like, oh my God, I think I wrote down that I was 37. But no, it's confirmed. I was born in 1987. I am definitely 38. But like, I don't really care that much, which is cool because sometimes aging can feel really scary and it brings up a lot of feelings around like accomplishment and have I done the things and what's next. But I feel like I've done a lot of that in the past, which we're going to talk about. And so it almost feels like now it's this space to just like settle in and feel really good about aging and what time has to offer. Because I feel like with each year, I get to know myself a little bit better and I become more intentional. I become a little bit more confident. And so life just continues to get so much better. And there are so many things that I wish that I could tell the 27, 28-year-old in me to help her live with a little bit more contentment and happiness. But I guess going through it and figuring it out for ourselves is what makes all of the learning possible, right? Like I don't typically do things and make change unless I'm experiencing something myself, as much as I wish that I was the type of person who just like heard something like wear sunscreen, which everyone told us when we were 12 and I didn't do. And now I have lines in my forehead that I wish weren't there and maybe could have been prevented by a little bit of sunscreen. But anyways, when I sat down to jot a few notes for this episode, which I always do, or else I end up on tangents like I just did for the first 5 minutes of this episode. I was writing my age, and I meant to write going from 37 to 38, and I accidentally wrote 27. And I paused for a second, and I was like, wow, what a decade it's been. And doesn't saying a decade sound like so much longer than saying 10 years? I don't know why, but like a decade just sounds so profound. So before I dive into some of my favorite moments and lessons from 37, I'm going to take you down a little trip to memory lane with me, because I just wanted to like think about what was happening for me at 27 and what have I carried through with me from there. What version of me is still me, and what have I very gratefully left behind. So you'll also maybe see that this is now a video, and we're on YouTube, which feels weird. So we're going to give it a try and see how that goes. I feel really awkward recording this video right now, but yeah, let's see. So I'm sitting in my apartment. I've got one computer screen to my right. I've got one right in front of me. One has some notes on it that I'm going to reference. So if you see me looking back and forth, that's why. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, check it out on YouTube if you love, that visual version of podcasts. I'm learning. So this is a very lo-fi production, but we'll get there and test and learn different things over time. So yeah, I'm just sitting here. I've got my water with my electrolytes. I use like one of these a day. This is the Salty Watermelon by Trace Minerals. And I love Trace Minerals. There are lots of brands that I love, but I feel like they're kind of like the OG electrolyte mineral people. I've been taking their drops in my water for years that my naturopath recommended to me. But before we dive into like all of the birthday stuff, it wouldn't be a solo episode without sharing what I'm loving lately. So this starts with a mini story about my birthday and what I did for my birthday this year. So I had not taken a day off of work all year, which is unacceptable and crazy, and probably a conversation for another time too. Like, how do we take our time off and not get burnt out, blah, blah, blah. But I spent the day exactly how I wanted it, doing my favorite things. So I started out just relaxing with my coffee. I went to a Tracy Anderson class, grabbed a Joe and the Juice, and then I went and got a facial at a new spot, new to me anyways, called Georgia Louise on the Upper East Side. And she was fantastic. I saw Shannon there, and I'll link Shannon's Instagram in the show notes wherever you're listening to this episode, so that if you're interested in following her on Instagram and getting some of her tips, you can. She was so amazing and really helped me understand my unique skin needs. If you've been around here for a while, you know that I have struggled a lot with crazy breakouts. I think some of it might have been like mold or fungus or something, because it was these crazy breakouts that didn't quite seem like acne. So she noticed there was a lot of redness and potentially some inflammation, and that my skin became red very easily. And she gave me a customized plan to follow and a couple of products, and helped me just ease into a new skincare routine. After the facial, the redness like went away, but then a couple of days later, it like flared up even worse. And I messaged her like, is this normal to have even more of a breakout after? Like, it's like shedding all of the bad before you get to see the good. And she was like, no, I don't like this. And just went above and beyond. It was like, send me what you're using. Let me look into the ingredients. And doing that, she told me some things to use, some things to maybe stop using. And I'm really grateful for her advice. So with that, what I'm loving lately. Okay, so obviously we're starting with skincare. And the first thing, and I discovered Sophie Pavitt, who's apparently the acne whisperer. through Instagram, as we do these days. And I was like, I have to try your products. Walked into Sephora. They were there. I was like, this is meant to be. So I grabbed a couple things. And the first thing that I got was this Sophie Pavitt Mandelic Clearing Serum. Mandelic acid is really good for clearing acne. I think it helps to reduce sebum production and things like that. I am not the acne expert, but I'm sure she has a great description on her website. And so I went from using this sparingly to using it once a day in the morning during the daytime. And I think that it's really helped clear up a lot of redness and keep some of my breakouts at bay. We all know that like a lot of breakouts starts on the inside. So working on some of that separately from these products. The second thing that I got from Sophie Pavitt were these Micellar, I think that's how you say it, cleansing pads. And I've been taking them when I travel. So they're like little like cleansing wipes. If I'm wearing makeup, sometimes I have to use 2 of them to make sure that I get all of the makeup off before rinsing off with a little bit more water. So these are really gentle, remove all of the makeup and also cleanse. And they're made for skin that's blemish prone like mine. So I felt like these were a better option to travel with versus like a Neutrogena wipe, which I also think are great. They do the job. But as I really try to work on the integrity of my skin and skin barrier, just trying to use the products that are a good match for my skin. Okay, we all know that I love Summer Fridays. I have my Summer Friday lip gloss here, and I've talked about the Butter Balm several times on what I'm loving lately. It was on like every gift guide that I did over the Christmas season. But I also love this Jet Lag Skin Soothing Hydration Mist. So as you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, it's like almost done, which is huge. Like having an empty for me, I feel like is a huge feat because I'm always buying and trying new things. But this has become a staple for me every single day. I actually usually like to spray it after my makeup. So I'll just like do a little spray, trying not to get it in my mouth. Got a little bit, but that's okay. And I feel like it hydrates my skin and it gives me that kind of glowy, dewy look that we all want, you know, young, vibrant skin. Okay, the next thing is my bone broth. And this is empty because I finished it this morning, but I have been having bone broth before coffee in the morning. I've been hearing so much, and my naturopath years ago told me to have food before I have my coffee because food is very acidic and it does something to like the mitochondria, I think, and can cause, you know, a lot of indigestion, food cravings, things like that. I think those are all accurate. Anyways, you should ask a doctor why you should have coffee first, not me. But this per bone broth is from Trader Joe's. It's organic. I think with a bone broth, you kind of want an organic bone broth. If you can't get it though, just having something to soothe your stomach, I think is really powerful in the morning. And so this has bone broth, onions, apple cider vinegar, garlic, and parsley. So if you have SIBO or trying to eat low FODMAP, maybe this wouldn't be the right broth for you. But those things are all really good to feed the little microbes in your gut. And so by having this before my coffee, I feel like it creates this like really nice lining for my gut. And if you've been around, you know that I've struggled with my gut health for quite some time. And so I'm really like working on the integrity of the gut. I think this is probably all connected, like gut, skin, the integrity of it, making sure that it's really nourished. And this has 10 grams of protein per cup. There's tons of enzymes and minerals. It supports with inflammation and digestion. So this is just a really, for me, great way to start the day. You might even want to have a cup of it for like a snack in the afternoon. And it's really satiating. I think the warmth of it feels really nice. Okay, the last thing that I'm loving lately, and this was actually not what I was planning to share with you today, but I'm going to because it's what I'm wearing. It's Friday, and I really wanted to be cozy. So let's see how I can show you this without being really weird. Okay, I think I can adjust the camera. Okay, so this is a sweat set from Perfect White Tea. And so it's like really light and loose. And then there's like these jogger pants that have the thin band here. They're nice and loose and light, and then have the jogger like drawstring at the bottom. They're obviously way too long on me because I'm 5'1", but they're so comfy. I've been wearing them consistently since I got them about a month ago, and they are on the pricier side for sweats. Like, it's an expensive sweatsuit, but I don't have a ton of sweatsuits, and I tend to wear the things that I have and love over and over again, so I don't feel too guilty about getting them. I do feel a little guilty because they were expensive. Don't tell my husband. Shh. Okay. Anyways, you can find all of the links to everything I mentioned in the what I'm loving lately in the show notes, or visit the Shop My page that I created, that has these products and a lot more stuff that I'm loving, as well as the stuff that I'm lusting after. I'm trying to lust after less stuff because I have a full closet with lots of good basics that I can mix and match, but I am a shopper through and through, and nothing I love more than a good scroll and browsing. So yeah, head on over to the shop if you're interested in seeing that. And I'm always interested in what you're loving lately. So follow me on Instagram, and when I share the stuff there, drop it in the comments of what you're loving lately. Okay, so let's move on to my birthday reflections. And like I said, we're going to take a little trip down memory lane. So I hope that you'll join me. Okay, so back when I was 27, I had to use my photos to do this, which is why I actually am such a proponent of taking a ton of photos, because they help jog your memory and bring back like all those good feelings. So at the time, 2015, 2014, 2015, I was about a year and a half into living in New York. So I had moved from Boston to New York, when I got a job at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition in marketing. It's my big shift from fundraising and alumni marketing to consumer marketing, which was an intentional shift that I wanted to make. And it was kind of when I started delving really deeply into health and wellness. I moved to Hell's Kitchen, and I lived in a duplex apartment with 3 girls who ended up being like 3 of my best friends and 2 dogs. We always joke that it's the Hell's Kitchen brothel. I also had a really solid group of girlfriends in the city from college, people that I was meeting at work, and then of course had all of my relationships who were not in the city. But if you lived in New York in your 20s, you know what I mean when I say we just had like that young New York energy. It was like magic. Like, it was, I just can't even explain. And like, you maybe know the feeling, if you know, you know, of like hailing a yellow taxi. This is pre-Uber, right? Hailing a yellow taxi, heading downtown with the windows open in the summer. It's like hot and muggy, and the lights are on and people are out everywhere. Like, there's no space that's empty, and there's just this magic about it. It's like, it's this feeling that anything could happen. And so many amazing things did happen during that time. Like, we were just out all the time. We danced, we drank, we went to great restaurants, even though we couldn't really afford it. And we just like lived with so much freedom and fun. And I think those 3 to 5 years in New York were some of the best and most memorable years of my life. And it's not because like the other phases weren't, or because of anything specific. I think that it was because I had made this decision truly for myself to move to New York. I had, support from friends to do it, but I made the conscious decision that I wanted to leave Boston. And when I moved to Boston, I moved because I went with friends, and someone else was like, oh, I got a job there. So I went along with them. But moving to New York was just for me. And so I felt like I was really like living the life that I was choosing and building it step by step and building new friendships and going out and kind of doing all these things that I hadn't done before, but I think were inside me and wanting to do. So it was just like this really awesome time. It like was not perfect, right? Being in your 20s it's hard a lot of the time. You're navigating how to build relationships both with friends and intimate relationships, and maybe trying to meet someone and thinking about what the future looks like. You're trying to figure out your career. Like, am I doing the right thing for me? Do I want to change? It all feels so critical. It feels like they're the most important decisions that you're ever going to make in your life. And it's really hard, but it's also this really beautiful time because those decisions are important. They're not going to probably make or break your life in the way that you feel like they are. And you learn later that every decision that you make was on purpose and it was made for you so that you could move into the right next opportunity. But it doesn't always feel like that in the moment. So we were making all of these choices that would ultimately shape our lives and building our lives from the ground up. And I think when you kind of, a few years after college, you've started to make more decisions for yourself and feel that life is becoming your own. And I think that's a really special time in life. So that's where I was living at 27. And career-wise, like I said, I was working at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, which is where I got my health coach training program. I think I worked there for 4.5 years. And my job there started out as just like a marketing coordinator. And it's so funny. I remember when I got the job, I was offered $50,000 a year. And I said, I'm really sorry, but I don't want to make a lateral career move. And so I'd like $55,000. And it's so funny to think back on that. And I'm like so proud of myself for doing that because it's hard to like advocate for myself now after having been in my career for, how old am I? 38. So like 15, 16 years. And they said yes, $5,000. And it just kind of became this like running joke with the founder that like I had kind of demanded this additional money. And he knew that I was going to be a hard worker because I had advocated for myself. So it's just kind of funny side anecdote. But I got this job at the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, started out like very kind of marketing coordinator type work, setting up webinars. And then I quickly grew into more of like a leadership role, leading the referral program and hosting all of our conferences. And so IIN was challenging for many reasons, but it was also probably one of the most transformative experiences that I've ever had and really shaped who I am today, the things that I'm interested in, and my career path. It gave me like this huge, huge opportunity. I learned about all things health and wellness. Like I really dove in deep, sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. But I got to immerse myself in this topic area that I had become really, really passionate about. I got to learn about a ton of different dietary theories. I got to meet some really incredible leaders in the health and wellness space that I can't even imagine, getting access to now. And I learned that I have a skill for public speaking and standing on a stage in front of 1,000 people and just like putting it out there. I learned that I'm really good at creating content. I learned that I'm really anxious in work environments and there are things that I'm not great at, and how to like stand up for myself and advocate and all of those things. And I just couldn't be more grateful for that experience. And at the same time, I was also blogging every night. So, this passion for content creation, I think, comes from being a little girl. I'm always creating, always making stuff up. And I started my first blog in, I think it was probably 2011. It was called On the Side of 9 to 5. So, still doing the on the side hustle. It's one of my biggest kind of regrets and things that I kick myself for is not being more consistent with my content creation over time. There are people that I met when I first had my blog that now have like hundreds of thousands of followers, and we were kind of doing the same thing at the same time, and they were consistent and found their niche and really did it. And that's something that I definitely wish that I did. And I can't go back in time, but I can change things moving forward. So when I moved to New York, I was still blogging every single night. So I was talking about my experiences in New York. I was blogging meals and food and snacks. I was in this like What I Ate Wednesday group where everyone would link each other's content. And I was also teaching spinning at the time. So when I lived in Boston, I got really injured running and started going to this spin class at Boston Sports Club, taught by this woman named Danielle, and she made me feel so excited about spin and kind of this performative aspect of it. Like you could make classes your own. So I got my spin instructor certificate, taught a bunch in Boston, and I auditioned at Equinox in New York and did not pass the test, obviously. It was one of the most intimidating things I'd ever done. I felt like small town girl and then like coming in from Boston just for this audition. And you had 3 minutes to get up there to the song that you chose. You had to run up, clip in, and then start teaching the class. So I got offered to go to this boot camp, but I didn't do it. I ended up teaching at Bally Total Fitness in the basement it's like the plaza on 50th Street. If you live in New York, you probably know it, in Hell's Kitchen. So it was really close to my apartment. There was also one in like near Herald Square, the armpit of the city. And they were totally disgusting gyms, but it was so much fun. I'd run in after work and teach a class, and I needed the extra money. So it was a perfect way that, to kind of balance my $55,000 salary in New York with a little bit of extra cash. I also babysat to make extra cash and would kind of use the extra income as like my fun money. And then the money that I was making at IIN, the loads of money to pay for my life and to save a little bit of money at the same time, which maybe we can do another episode on like how I saved money on very low salaries early in my career. So what else was I doing at the time? Oh, I was also deep into marathon training. I recovered from my running injury and decided I was going to get back into it. And I got back on the saddle and I got back on hard. I was running a lot, like 4 days. It actually wasn't that much, but it was like with like a serious intensity. Like I would just go out and like run. And I was running like 6-minute and 45-second miles during a 5-mile run, which is probably so bad for your body and also incredibly unnecessary. And so on a whim, I applied for the lottery for the for the New York Marathon. I'll never forget, it was March 3rd. And it was like, you're in for the marathon. And I was like, oh shit, I'm in. So I have to start training. And I did start training very early, which I'm grateful for. Like training is a loose term. I would do it so differently now. I just went out and ran, and like sometimes would take a goo with me if I was running over 10 miles and I wouldn't eat beforehand. And like, talk about digestive distress. I was so tiny, but so bloated. And it's just crazy how it impacted my health. And I was tired all the time, dehydrated all the time. I wasn't eating enough. And I just didn't take really good care of my body. I was just running. And in hindsight, maybe running away from something and trying to run towards something that I didn't quite know what it was yet. But I crushed it. I ran it in 3 hours and 22 minutes, and I'm still so proud of that time. And I qualified for the Boston Marathon, but I actually made a choice not to do it. And that's something that I'll talk about another time, that decision, which is something that I still sometimes reflect on. And I'm like, shit, I wish that I had run that marathon. Like, you don't often get the opportunity to run the Boston Marathon, and I didn't take it. But I'm also proud of myself for making that decision because it was the right one to make at the time. Okay. I was also traveling a ton. Like, how did I fit all this stuff in? I'm looking back and I'm like, this is awesome. Like, 27 was a good year for me. I went to Paris and Cassis and Aix-en-Provence with one of my best friends who is like a sister to me. I went on a spontaneous trip to Sweden to visit this guy that I had a short-lived thing with. I went to the Hamptons. I don't know how I afforded that. I also got the opportunity to go to DC to speak with Congress about health coaching and preventative health, which I'm still so passionate about. And with all of the like changes that are happening that I need to get more familiar with, I really want to kind of go back to some of that passion for helping people have access to healthy foods that make them feel good, because I really believe that I'm not going to say like you are what you eat. I feel like that's maybe a little bit intense, but I do think, it makes sense. You put high quality fuel into your car. You wouldn't let your car go on empty when you're going on a long road trip. And life is kind of like that long road trip. And there are higher quality foods with macro and micronutrients and minerals, and that make your body operate and function better than other foods. So maybe not good or bad morally, but functionally better for your overall health. And I think wellness today is like such a privilege to have because good foods are so expensive. It's hard to walk into the grocery store for a lot of people and buy the foods that are going to make them feel good. And so I'm really passionate about helping people feel more educated around the power of good nutrition and how to do that without a huge budget. And so, yeah, that's what we did in DC, and like trying to get health coaches covered by insurance and talking about the power of prevention. And I would like to do more of that. So, yeah, 27 was a really good year. Like, on reflection, it was like really good. But I will say, in the moment, I was having the best time too. But there was also this piece of me that wasn't quite full, I guess, or happy or content. It was like I was like busy and a bit chaotic and quite emotional. And as I look back to like why I was feeling those types of feelings, there was a lot going on. But like, as you can see, I did a lot. I was like running around the city like a chicken with my head cut off. I was never fully present in the thing that I was doing. I was just trying to do a lot. So whether that's like trying to sightsee a million things on a Saturday and go to a yoga class and have a nice lunch and then go out with my friends at night and then do it all over again on a Sunday, because I like had to make the most of every moment, and every moment had to be like this perfect moment. Every moment meal had to be like the perfect meal. Every workout had to be the right one. And if I went to a yoga class that wasn't what I was wanting in that moment, I'd get like really pissed off. So there was like a lot of like tension and anxiety that existed within me. And it came out in a lot of different ways, like probably through like running too much and trying to control those types of things. And I just felt like everything had to be like this like perfect thing. I was constantly striving, constantly pushing. I didn't know how to just be and to move with a little bit more ease and contentment and know that things were going to work out. It was like literally my job, my relationships, my health, the future. I wanted the future to be perfect. And felt like I had to make the decisions that would make the future perfect. And it was like there was a sense of always waiting for the other shoe to drop, like for something bad to happen or something that was going to like fuck this up. Like almost like I didn't deserve to have what I had. So I had to keep going, and I had to keep pushing. And I still experience some of these feelings a bit. Like as an example, we just wrapped up a work project that went really well. And now I have a ton of anxiety that every single thing I do after that, every single interaction that I have with like senior people after that has to like meet this expectation of excellence. And so it's a lot of pressure. And so back then I like really controlled what I could. I like put myself in this little pressure cooker. I was probably like a little prune, just so tense, running all over the city. Like, oh God. And I just like was really trying to protect myself from the uncertainty of life. And because I was really doing it myself, and I guess like what I know now is obviously like you can't control the future. You can make the decisions that you think are best for you in the moment to try to influence your future experiences, right? I think that just comes with having a sense of intentionality, having goals, understanding like what you want out of life, understanding what's important to you, not necessarily through like a strict sense of control. And so that's why I think having like a practice of reflection and gratitude and understanding of yourself is so important, because it will help you make the decisions more intuitively that will be the right ones for you in the future. And with that, like we can also only really live in the present and like make the right next best decision for ourselves right now. And 10 years down the line, you might be like, oh, I wish that I made a different decision. I wish that I made a different choice. But if you make the right choice for you at the time, that's the best that any of us can do. And I think that's what I was doing. I didn't, I think, have the tools at the time to like name what I was feeling. I just thought I had so much energy. I thought I had so much energy. I thought I was like so excited to see everything and do everything, and just like it was like part of my identity to like do so much and like do it really well. And I think that a lot of us feel that way, especially in our 20s. But I was also intuitive. I was curious and perceptive. Like I would watch other people and I'd be like, that person looks like they feel free or comfortable, or that person is so authentic. Like, why do I like that person so much? And what do I want to embody that person has? And always kind of asking myself those types of questions, even if I didn't quite know how to get there. And so I think 27 was such a transformative year in so many ways for all of the things that I just shared about where I was currently at. And it was also when I started really like questioning the striving. Like started asking myself, is this really how I want to feel? Like I started to feel the tension was really taking a toll on my body. And there's that book, The Body Keeps the Score. And it was showing up for me, right? It was showing up mostly through like digestive issues and a lot of really severe bloating. I can show a photo. from that year, actually, that I looked back at recently, and I was like, whoa, I was putting so much effort into like running and trying to be thin and working out and eating well and all of these things, but my stomach like actually looks like it's pregnant because of bloating. And it was it's so ironic. It was because of all the effort that I was putting in trying to achieve something unrealistic. So your body reacts. I think it reacts like in anxiety, manifesting in a lot of anxiety, a lot of rumination, a lot of not being able to relax or settle in. But yeah, I just started like wondering, maybe there's something like better than this to feel. Maybe there's a different way to do this. So I started like seeking out therapy and different tools and things like that. And it's a journey. Like I'm still on it. I think it's part of my personality to be a little high strung and to strive and to want more, to be a little bit of like a seeker, I guess. I'm curious about what's next, but I think I've learned how to like moderate that with more contentment and allowing. And as I went through all of this, I also felt really like proud of myself for at 27 being able to do all of those things. I have done everything for myself pretty much. I've had a ton of support. Don't get me wrong, along the way, my family is incredible and supportive. But when I moved to New York, like I didn't have anyone helping me with like a phone bill or paying my rent or paying for any of these holidays that I went on or buying me clothes or buying me food or sending me money or helping me in that way. Like I literally did all of that myself. And it was hard at the time. I of course always wish that there was more, but now I get to reflect and feel like I got to make all of these choices for myself. And I just feel really proud of a younger version of me. And I think a younger version of me would feel really proud of me now. So that's what was happening at 27. So, what have I carried with me from that decade? Like, what have I held on to? So, a few things. I have a deep love for travel. I love to see new places. I love to get out of the house. And now it's kind of like not because it's like a cool thing to do necessarily. Like I think sometimes when I was 27, I was like, oh, I'm going to France and doing whatever. Now I still like to go to certain places and there's probably part of that there. But it's like I want to experience new places. I want to experience new people. I want to experience new cultures. And my husband is so good at that, at like making sure we experience local cultures. I also travel really differently now. I used to like try to get like 100,000 steps in a couple days. It's like 25,000 steps a day. Or it was like not a successful trip because it needed to be so adventurous and like seeing the next thing. I like took my mom to Spain and made her ride like uphill for like a mile, like very steep uphill. And I was like, this is travel. And it's just so funny to think back. And now I'm very happy to like lay on a beach with an Aperol spritz in the middle of the day and read a book until I feel like doing something else. And I usually reach a point where I'm like, okay, this is enough sitting on the beach. Like I need to get some movement in. But yeah, I love travel still. My love of my friends and my relationships. I think those years really taught me what it means to be a good friend. And this is something that I have tried to be really intentional about since college, when I felt like I didn't really maybe know how to be a good friend. And I would watch other people who I thought were really good friends and be like, oh, like that's kind of like that's how I want to be. And growing new friendships and continuing to cultivate old ones in that decade of life, I really carried through to this decade of life. I care about my friends so much. Like they are just the most important thing to me. And I think investing in those relationships is just the highest of priorities. I also still love running, but I don't do it as much. because it hurts. I would still consider myself a runner. I'll get out for like a 3 to 5 mile run every so often, but it's not my identity anymore. It's still part of my identity, but now I have, I think, a more multifaceted identity than I did at 27. And I think that, I just learned for me that running too much came at the expense of my overall health. And I've been able to let some of that go and take on new things like strength training, which I want to share more about on the podcast, and Pilates, and just walks and rest. Rest is productive. The other thing I think I've carried with me from 27 is work ethic. I've always been a really hard worker. I've always, I think, known what I want long term and known that it takes a lot of hard work to get there, and I'm not afraid of it. I'm not afraid to put in the effort. I think what I need to do moving forward is like prioritize a bit more. But I work really hard. And I think like this passion for content. Like I said, at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, I created a lot of content, I did public speaking, and I kind of mentioned earlier, like I had a blog 10 years ago. I did stuff when I was younger, like always like creative. And so it's maybe a passion for content and a passion for creativity. And I've really continued to carry that through, and now just trying to find ways to make it more consistent. Okay, what have I let go of? I've let go of a lot of anxiety, especially in relationships. I feel more confident in myself. And so I think like wondering, are people mad at me? Does he like me? I mean, now I know my husband likes me, right? But before I met my husband, a lot of fear there. And I think it's taken a lot of therapy to do that, because I went to therapy because I wanted to get rid of my anxiety. I think it takes a lot of stillness to get rid of anxiety, learning to sit with your emotions, recognize them, be with them, let them pass, know what makes you anxious so that you can either prepare yourself when you're going to have to be in an anxious moment, or mitigate them by not putting yourself there. So that's been really a good thing to let go of. I still have a bit of it because I think I'm just a bit of, there's a bit of anxiety within me, and there's also a positive side of anxiety too. But overall, the negative parts of anxiety, I've really, really let go of a lot of it. I have also, I think, let go of some more performative confidence. So I think I've worked really hard to find real confidence. And it's something that earlier in the year, I discussed building more confidence as one of my goals, because it's still just always something that's there. And I think every time you do something new, it's like a new opportunity to build a new type of confidence. But I think generally, I have built more inner confidence, where previously I think I would try to exude confidence because I knew what that looked like. And so I was able to do it. I was able to like make you think that I was confident, but I wasn't actually. So it's felt good to like walk into a room at work or walk into a room of people and feel like, hey, like it's okay to be me. Like I should feel confident in that. What else? I've, mostly let go of a lot of control. Like when I used to go out to dinner, I used to have to like look at the menu ahead of time. And now I don't want to, because I want to like spend a long dinner looking at the menu, like mulling it over, deciding what to have. I think that was a form of control. I would like try to control other people by like manipulating communications or actions or whatever, so that I could feel good. I used to think that control gave me like a sense of feeling free, but I actually have realized, and maybe this is so obvious, but just sometimes letting things be actually provides you more freedom, or like more spontaneity, allows for a more enjoyable experience. And I think that's all kind of bucketed under this desire for control. It also exists within relationships. Like there are certain things that I want my husband to do, and I would like try to control them by like talking about it or like doing certain things. And I realized like I can't control another person, and I don't want to. And when we just like let other people be who they are and embrace all parts of them, our relationships are also just better and more enjoyable. And I talked about this a bit earlier, But the one thing that I really, really learned is that like perfection is not the answer. Nothing is perfect. Some things will be really good. Like they'll be great. Like it'll be the best. And some things will be really bad. But it's the good and the bad that make us have a really full life. We don't get one really without the other. And I think when we are present and make the best choice for us in the moment, that's the best thing we can do. And letting go of a little bit of perfectionism has relieved a lot of that anxiety that I talked about. And it's really intentional. Like it doesn't just happen. You know, you have to kind of recognize, I think I really always want things to be perfect. And I think that's unrealistic. And then make a choice every time you realize it coming up. Like maybe it's a feeling in your gut that you have. It's like for me, it was like tense, like paralyzed a little bit. I want that thing to be perfect. And maybe that's not how you say it in your head. You don't say, I want that thing to be perfect, but that's like the underlying thing that's causing your reaction. So, you know, sometimes there's still those moments, right? But that's kind of what I've carried with me and what I've let go. So now let's talk about my favorite moments of 37 and what I'm looking forward to in 38. First, thank you so much for coming with me down memory lane. It's quite a trip, but I really think that no matter if it's going into a big new decade, changing years, changing months, or just the start of something fresh, reflection is one of the best ways to continue to evolve and improve our lives, right? Like if something's not feeling good, if something doesn't feel right, we have the power and the opportunity to make shifts in our lives, but we can only do that if we know where we're at, right? Like what is going well? What's not going well? How do I want to feel? How do I not want to feel? And how do I take the actions to get myself there within the context of my current life? I think saying within the context of our current lives is so important because we're all having different experiences. We all have different barriers to getting the things that we want. We all have different opportunities to getting the things that we want. So being able to create goals for yourself within your own reality versus someone else's reality is the key to having success in any goals that we set. So let's shift to the present. Since I just turned 38, how long ago? It's the 14th. My birthday was June 23rd. I am a Cancer. I used that time to think about some of the brightest spots of 37 and how I want to take those into my 38th year. So I always organize my themes and my reflections into three big areas of my life, my three pillars. So I have relationships, I have my health, and I have my passions, which includes my day job as well. Having these core buckets or pillars of things that are important to me helps me put things into buckets, helps me align my actions with my intentions, and helps me just shift things around so that I have a little bit of structure to the thinking. I will say they are big, broad buckets because I am not very good at putting things into categories. Like I'll start putting things into categories and then all of a sudden there are like 25 categories and things have shifted. And that's just kind of how my brain works. But for this, I feel like having these three pillars keeps me really grounded. So let's dive into some of my favorite moments within the relationship pillar. So this is an area that I feel so lucky, like across friendships, across family, across the relationship with my husband, and even relationships that I have with my coworkers. I feel like this was a really good year for relationships for me for a number of reasons. First, am just like the luckiest person alive that I have so many incredible relationships in my life. But I've also started to, I think, be more intentional about how I show up in those relationships and how I show up for myself. So I've tried to be mindful about when in certain relationships are things feeling really good? When are things feeling like there's a little bit of internal tension for me? And how can I address those things either with somebody else and having a conversation, or setting the boundary for myself, or having a conversation with myself about how I can improve and be different and show up in a way that feels more aligned to the way I want to be. So the first area within relationships that I wanted to talk about and highlight some of my favorite moments from 37 are with my friendships. I feel like all of my friendships have continued to deepen in their own unique way. Before, I think I held all friendships to, I don't want to say the same standard, but kind of needing to be the same or get the same things out of. But I think that the best of friendships all have different purposes in our lives. Like some people, we might talk all the time, like every day, a text or a meme or something, talk to weekly. Other people, it's like once in a while or not very often. And none of that is better or worse. I think that each friendship can have its own rhythm if you let it, right? And I think it can be easy to feel like resentment when things aren't showing up in a certain way for you, or different friendships are different. And in my 20s, this was hard to navigate. I kind of felt like I wanted to show up for everybody all the time in the exact same way, but that's just not really how things work. And things also change over time. They ebb and flow. You know, the person that you're really close with in a certain season of life, because you're going through the same thing, might shift over a period of time. And I think that that is totally okay. So some of the big moments for me this year were I got to go to Lake George last July with my college friends, and we're spread out all over the United States, so we don't get to see each other very often. I took 2 trips to Texas. One was for a baby shower, and one was to help my friend celebrate getting her PhD, which was a huge accomplishment. She'd been in school for ages, so we all got together and celebrated her and that. I took a couple of work trips to LA, and I extended them so that I could see one of my closest friends. I always do that when we go to LA, and I feel so lucky that I'm able to tack that on to see her, and not to mention, you know, the little Erewhon trip that I can't go without. And then I think there were just all of those spontaneous, like post-work happy hours and moments when you're like, hey, do you want to meet up? Do you want to chit chat? Do you want to just come over and sit on the couch and catch up? And it just reminds me how precious those relationships are and how important it is to invest in them. When it comes to the relationship with my husband, I feel like I like him and love him more all of the time, and our relationship just keeps evolving. We've been together for almost 5 years. We've been married for just a year and a half, so I know we're like new in the game. But I think one of the things I love the most about him is that he is pretty intentional with how he acts, and when he commits to something, he does it. He's so loyal, and I just know how much he cares and how committed he is. And I think just how I used to feel in relationships and dating, I never felt that sense of like safety with someone that I knew that they cared about me and I knew that they loved me. And I just know that from him. And that's something that I personally need to feel. And I just am so grateful that I get that from him. And I think what makes our relationship get better is that we get more comfortable with each other over time. We're able to be more honest. We're able to be more like ourselves. And, you know, you get less and less afraid to say certain things. So your communication gets stronger. And I think one of the keys to communication being strong is that you adapt your communication to how people hear things and how people react to things. The more we get to know each other, the more I know how he's going to react to certain things. He knows how I'm going to react to certain things. And so even if that might not feel like the way that you want to communicate something in the moment, or that I want to communicate something in the moment, I try to take a pause to think about what communication style is really going to get the result that I want. It's usually not saying something in the heat of an argument. I also feel like my husband and I laugh and laugh more over time. We're just really silly. And, we both have pretty busy, serious jobs. So being able to come home at the end of the day and just have someone who is silly and makes you laugh and is just that person is really awesome. Like, it's just fun. And so I feel like for all of those reasons and probably so many more that I'm not thinking of right now, we get to create a deeper connection. And as we think about starting a family, I think having all of these qualities grow and deepen and evolve is even more important. So family-wise, to be honest, this is probably one of the areas that I would like to work on. My family is spread out all over the East Coast of the US. It's really hard to see everyone frequently. I get to see my mom a lot, which is amazing. And we chat over text all the time, but it's not the same as having like an open door policy with your family when you live in the same place. And I think this is probably true for more and more people over time as we become more mobile, right? Like, how many people live down the street from their parents? How many people are living in the town that they grew up in? I feel like fewer and fewer, but I don't know if that's true, but that's just how it feels to me. So I think this like vision that I had for this huge family, just like bursting in the door and being around each other all the time just isn't realistic. And so I really want to put in more work to invest here in different ways. I don't know what that will look like because I can't travel all the time and they can't travel to me all the time. So trying to think of some strategies for supporting those relationships a little bit more. Okay, the next pillar is health. And health is always like a non-linear journey for me. I go through phases of feeling like, oh my God, I need to get healthy. I need to do all these things. And I need to have like a to-do list and a checklist of the ways that I'm going to be healthy. Like I said, from 27, this has shifted a lot. Like, I used to really, really push myself. I used to really strive, whether that was eating a certain thing, even though I didn't want to, just because I felt like I should, doing a certain workout because I felt like I should, or it was going to have certain outcomes aesthetically. I think this year I've just leaned in a lot more to being intuitive in this way. So, I give myself permission to rest and relax because I know that that's what's best for my body. I eat the things that I want. I know externally like what the good things are for me. And I know when I need to lean in to certain nutrients more than others. I also know when I need to just like have a good time. And so I don't have any restrictions around that anymore. And I am mindful and intentional because I want to feel healthy. I want to live for a really long time, but the goals have shifted a lot for what empowers me to feel like my healthiest self. And I feel like it's so much easier to feel healthy and to be well when you approach it from like a softer spot. So the word that kind of came to mind here was ease. Health has felt a lot easier for me this year. Some of the things that I've done have shifted more into strength training, which I'm going to try to have a few more experts on the podcast to talk about strength training. So combining that with some conditioning and some cardio that feels really good, and really trying to develop a better sense of like bodily awareness and figuring out how to relax my nervous system. So knowing what's going to benefit my body in certain times and trying to really lean in. So instead of chasing like a lot of the aesthetic outcomes that come from exercise, I've really focused on getting stronger, around building stability and having a really healthy heart through endurance and cardio exercise. I like want to be able to run around with my kids, with my friends' kids, with my friends. I want to be able to pick things up and be able to do things for myself for a really long time. So I've really tried to focus my health around those areas in terms of exercise and food and nutrition. I think though, for me, the biggest thing that I've loved about this year with my health is that I've just really felt more connected to myself. So I've been able to recognize intuitively the things that I want or need at a certain time. And let's use exercise as an example. Maybe I'm like, my body really is craving a run right now, or my body is really craving like just sitting and stretching, or my body is craving like getting in the gym and lifting some heavy weights, or I really want to do dance cardio. I feel like that's really new for me. I used to create a plan for what I would do, or in my mind have a sense of the workouts I was going to do. And now I've created more space. So more space for decision making, based on how I'm feeling. And that's happened through like a lot of quiet time. So creating maybe even just 5 minutes in the morning to get quiet with myself, to read a book, to have creativity. So those are some of the ways that health has felt this year. And I'm looking forward to even more of that in this year of 38. Okay, passion. This was a big year of growth for me, I think, in the passion area. So I work at Meta in marketing, in case you didn't know, which is actually where I am now. I stayed late so that I could get this re-recorded. But it's been really fulfilling and successful in new and exciting ways. I've really found a lot more confidence in my job, which I recorded a podcast about a couple of months ago. And I've taken on some projects that have really shown me some of my strength areas and also challenged me in ways showing me where I want to grow, what I want to try. So that's been really great. My biggest area there is to just like figure out how to compartmentalize some of the anxiety that I get from needing to excel all the time. The second thing with passion is like this podcast. And this is a constant like dream in motion. It is my side hustle. I do not have anyone that helps me with it. I totally fear posting things on Instagram because I have such imposter syndrome, but I really love it. It is such a passion project for me. And I haven't been fully consistent with it, but a lot more consistent than I had the past year and a half. So really trying to figure that out again this year. And then travel. This was a great year for travel. We went on our honeymoon. We went to London and we did a couple of like small trips here and there, seeing friends, but being really intentional about the travel that we took. My husband is really good for me in this way. I would plan a weekend away and then be really stressed about it like every weekend. And he gets me to like dial it back a little bit and really focus our attention and energy on just a couple of really awesome places. Also, during this travel, I have learned how to let go a little bit and just enjoy the place that I am. Like it's okay to lay on a beach for an entire day and then get up when you feel ready. And so it really goes back to just like listening to your body and truly listening to the things that you want to do that will excite you, that will make you feel good in all the different ways, and then leaning in there. And also compromising when you travel with someone else. You can't do all of the things that maybe you want to do or would be your first pick. When I run into those scenarios, I try to think about how happy it makes me that the person that I'm with is happy, and it makes doing those activities that I maybe don't want to do a little bit more enjoyable. Okay, so what am I looking forward to this year in my 38th year of life? I am definitely going to continue investing in my relationships, my friendships, my relationship with my husband. And then, of course, the biggest area for growth for me is the relationship with my family and just how I can see them more. For my health, I really want to focus even more on how to calm my nervous system. So eliminating some of the anxiety that I have around the stories that I tell myself. So trying to do some more of that work, definitely continuing to lean into strength training and finding the right balance for me. I'm someone who also needs the cardio, who loves to do Pilates, who loves to do dance cardio. So kind of figuring that out. And then passion, it's really the podcast and figuring out how I can make it more consistent, how I can make it better, and how I can have a little bit more growth within it. So I think YouTube is a great step in that direction, and we'll see what happens. I have an amazing trip coming up in September that I'm so excited for. And I think, overall, outside of the pillars, in this year, I want even more ease and presence. So I want to not have 10 tabs open all the time. I want to focus. That would probably be the word of the year, focus. I want to focus my intention on the people, places, and things that matter most to me so that I can be present, be there with them, and really enjoy each moment that I have. I think the only scary thing about aging is it feels like time then gets limited, right? Time with the people, places, and things that we love gets limited. And the best thing that we can do to counteract that is by being present. So ease and presence is definitely a huge goal for me. I think I want to continue to develop my intuition so that my actions can be more intuition led. I would like to learn some new things. So I have like all these ideas. As always, that's my personality. I want to take a course on different herbs and like functional medicine, and learn to do pottery and like do more with my hands, like maybe gardening. So I want to choose a couple of things to learn. I want to be more in tune with what's happening in the world. I am really bad with the news. It's embarrassing. So there's that. And just continue to be like led by the things that feel good. Continue to take the next best step in every scenario of life. We can't predict the future, but we can take the best next step. So that's what I'll be doing in 38, just focusing on the right best next step. Okay, you've been here for a long time with me, if you've even made it this far. And I thank you so much for being here. It like really means a lot. I would love to know what you liked about this episode, what you didn't like about this episode, what you would like to hear more of in the future.